Welcome to another episode. In this episode, we are going to take a look at a trial problem as a result of the time crisis. So we have a question on the board saying, without using division, find the number of times a given number m can divide another number n. Make sure your program states the remainder left after the division. And they are giving you a hint that modulus returns the remainder after division. Well, taking a critical look at the question, we do not need the modulus symbol at all. We don't need it. So let's see how the whole thing goes. All right. So let me get my board ready and expand this up like this. Don't need a bullet. So the user is going to give us two numbers. One called m, another called n. And we would want to get to know how many times the user can go into, how many times the m can go into that particular n. So let's store that particular thing as quotient, because quotient is usually our division. What we'll be doing over here is to do what is known as continuous subtraction until we cannot subtract anymore. So to talk about that, let me come here and more or less demonstrate. If I have 7 and 7 is supposed to be divided by 2, it is the same as having how many 2's can I get from 7? I can get 3 2's. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And so basically, I get 3 2's and I get 1 1. So the number of 2's over here will be my quotient, which is the result after the division. And then the single one that will be left after I've done the subtraction of the 2's from the 7 multiple times is what is going to be the remainder. So basically, we don't need the modulus. All right. I brought the modulus to cause confusion. If you understand how the question is going to go, then you will more or less be able to write it. So in this case, we are going to subtract m from n until we cannot subtract anymore. So while n is greater than 0, when it's greater than 0, that's when we're doing the subtraction. Okay, I'm not supposed to bring the curly braces. We are doing just pseudocode. So over here, all I'm going to do is, for the first time, I would want to replace the value of m by n. I would want to replace the value of n by n minus m. If I'm able to do that, then what will now happen is I will have, what do you call it? The quotient getting increased. Right. The moment I get a quotient increased, I'll end my while. So at the end of this loop, they are going to be subtracting, let's say, the 2 from the 7, and then the 7 will now be 5, and they'll subtract 2 again, and it will now be 3, and they'll subtract another 2 again to be 1. But as of the 1, you cannot subtract anymore. You cannot subtract anymore. Someone can also decide, okay, while n is greater than 0 and n is greater than m. In that case, we will only enter this loop only if the value of what do you call it? The value of n is greater than the value of m. So if a person enters something like this, m is 4 and n is 2. In this case, we will not enter the while loop, because over here, when we decide to subtract the value of m from n, we are going to get n being a negative number. They are going to increase quotient, and we wouldn't want it that way. Okay, so know how to structure your code. The kind of input that the user will enter restrict him up there using either do while or something of that sort. Before you now come down here, and so when you are done, you just say print quotient, quotient equal, bring your comma, then you write quotient, and then print remainder. Now, remainder is going to be the last value of n that we got. So in this case, our remainder is going to be equal to n. Now, when we are able to enter this loop, when we are able to enter this block, and we do all of that, we'll be able to do all our subtractions and everything, and n is going to be left with a remainder in the long run. If we do not enter this block at all, it means that the condition was not met. The condition was not met over here. That's the value of n is not greater than m. Hence, the quotient will definitely be 0. And then because it is not greater than m, the value will be less of the m. So the value of n is going to be put here. So restrict the user, the kind of input you can. If you don't restrict the user, this the form is going to take. Alright, this is my version. If there's any question or something, you can write in the comment section.